Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. The political developments, there are two political developments that I want us to look at in this country. And that is why I'm saying that Mbadi is going to start at a very difficult space. And let's listen into Kamau Thuge here, the CBK governor.
In terms of disbursements, we still have roughly about $1.4 billion of disbursements from the IMF to be made between now and the end of the financial year. On the IMF program, I think, of course, the current program, the current ECF and EFF, and also the RSF come to an end in April of next year. Our engagement beyond that, I think, is still will have to be discussed. We have not reached any concrete decision on our engagement after the current program expires, but that will come at the right time. In terms of disbursements, we still have roughly about $1.4 billion of disbursements from the IMF to be made between now and the end of the financial year. Under the seventh review, we expect something on the order of just slightly over $600 million, and we do hope that a board meeting will be set soon so that those disbursements can be made. I think, having said that, I think on the IMF, I think just to give a bit more color, I think we have done fairly well in terms of the IMF, the discussions and agreements that we've had with the IMF. Certainly, in the case of the central bank, we have been able to meet all the performance criteria starting in even December of 2023. The targets we also agreed on, the net international reserves for June, we have met, and for December we are really on track to meet that target. I think similarly with other targets, the primary deficit, the government was able to meet the performance criteria through December. That was not the case in June. And most of the other quantitative performance criteria, whether it was guarantees or whether it was the contracting of new debt, also the guaranteeing of new debt, the government has met those quantitative performance criteria.
So the government has rolled out a program of printing new banknotes that is going to commence on with the 1,000 notes. The CBK explained that the notes will run alongside existing ones, and so that as people now try to transition to the new notes. One of the few things they've actually pointed out is the new features of that, of course, changing the texture, and also it will read year 2024. And as the report that has been from that speech by CBK governor, they've given that tender to a new company from Germany. The famous De La Rue has been, I think it went redundant last year. It's been, that tender has been lifted from them and is going to be done by a German company. And from that press briefing, you can see that the CBK governor is in defense of that German company that is going to print the new notes. This is not new, and probably, I don't know whether there is a legislation that is guiding printing of money in this country, or other change, because in 2019, after Uhuru Kenyatta realized that there was a lot of money that were being stuffed home, and in a bid now to try to maybe lock them out, he also floated a tender to print money afresh. And there were new features that were introduced in the new notes, and that really dealt a blow to some fellows in the country who are believed to be involved in some illicit money transactions. So it was that time that we even introduced some caveat on money that you'll transact online, and even if you take the explanation note that if you take money to bank some specific amount, you're supposed to explain POP, purpose of payment, or rather POT, purpose of transaction. So, and that's why when now you can't just walk into a bank and deposit your 1 million. So that again has been done at a time when William Ruto is now transiting his administration. So as that is happening, the other development is about the loans. So we are going to look at that. But I think we need to try to look at the trigger behind this, what exactly could be behind it. And we've listened to what the CBK governor is saying, is that it's a normal practice that is done. It is a routine practice. But 4 years, is it now legislative that every 4 years we have to change the money printer? We have to print money afresh. This is something that will be of interest for the country to look at. Now, why is William Ruto changing the printer now? We've been asking the kind of business that political class are doing, that they're making a lot of money. And from one thing, I can see money laundering spree in the country. This is one of the spaces that Kenyans, really, there are quite some people that have been high profile crime on money laundering cases that have been reported in different courts. And of course, sometimes they go unreported by the mainstream media, but this is one of the spaces. You need to wonder what kind of business politicians are doing that the private citizens cannot do, because they roam around with millions left, right, and center. And this money laundering was a problem. I remember even Matiang'i, during Uhuru Kenyatta time, Matiang'i also raised eyebrows on this issue of money laundering. So this could be one of the triggers why the president and the team, or rather Kenya Kwanza, is trying to float it. And third, the other second reason I'm seeing this is the issue of people holding cash. You realize that there are high-profile corruption cases, scandals, but these corruption scandals cannot be, it cannot be pinned down in the judicial, with the criminal justice system, because most of these transactions are done in cash. The 10%, the 20%, someone is saying it's even now 30%, has mostly been done in cash. So probably William Ruto has realized that the outgoing team, people that are leaving government, probably the new brand of cabinet that is leaving government, there could be high-profile corruption scandals that is centered around them. But because you cannot pin them down, the best you can do is to try to float in a new tender so that you print money. So someone who has money and is keeping that money in cash somewhere in his pocket, somewhere under the mattress or some safe net somewhere, will have no option but to inject that money back to circulation. So it's normally another strategy. It will bring money to circulation. You must have realized that when there is less money in circulation chasing goods, it's one of the triggers of inflation. When we have less money in circulation chasing goods, it's one of the factors that brings inflation. So this money printing, it normally have a ripple effect of people who have cash. If you have the traditional notes, you will be tempted now to make sure that you put that money in circulation. You get ways of redeeming that money so that it's even if it's in form of you spend it at this transition time, because that transition will take some time, or it's something that can be seen. There were stories of money taken to banks in bags. So that is something in it. Number three, someone also is just floating the tender. This is one of the most secretive tenders. And even when the CBK governor was talking about it, he did not mention the name of that company. The other initially, there was Delarue. And by the way, wash business thrived in it. It is between 2022 to now, the increase of wash business has been going on, and it thrived during this time. When Uhuru tried to cover Kamba, we really didn't sit, it really didn't sit well with the oligarchs who felt like Uhuru is doing it because of political reasons and he's targeting leader X or Y about it. So we relaxed the rule, the vigilante on wash, but really you can see the mood. People you asking, where are these politicians getting all this manner of cash? And they've been all use of cash. They've been all use of cash. People going to church, they're just giving cash and all that. So that will be part of sanitizing the bad money. Now, lastly, when Uhuru introduced the new notes, in fact, even replaced some of the images there with the images of animals and that, and the features in the new notes, the dominant narrative was that Uhuru Kenyatta was targeting William Ruto, who by then was believed to be a beneficiary of some of those transactions. So could it be that then the same administration complained that Uhuru and some Uhuru allies carried money with bags last days during that transition? So they've not been able probably to recoup that money that they believe was stolen by that time. So this could also be part of the revenge scheme if it is anything to go by. Now, that was the first story. The other development still in this area is a story that was published by The Star. And I want us to, because many issues, I just want to quote verbatim. Kenya paid 1.4 billion interest on undrawn loans in 2023, the audit is showing. And that is why, this too falls under the Treasury. That is where Mbadi is. So before even Mbadi is sworn in, notes are being changed. Okay? These are serious policy discussions that are arrived at. Number two, as the same docket, we are realizing here that we are paying interest. How do you pay interest on loans that you've not even consumed? So let's get to understand. This is an audit report by Nancy Gadungu, the Auditor General. And the Auditor General is saying that, according to the report covering the year 2023, shows that commitment fees on undrawn amounts paid during the period review amounted to 1.44 billion. So what are this money? According to Nancy Gadungu, the commitment fees relate to undrawn loans signed between Government of Kenya and foreign lenders. It is high time we replace the word foreign lenders with the names of those lenders. There is nothing like foreign lenders. Who are these people we are lending? If it is IMF, if it is the World Bank, if it is so, if it is some country we are lending money from, it is high time we start talking about these lenders instead of this generalization of foreign lenders. Now, 3 loans totaling to 25.24 billion were signed between April 24th, 2017 to December 15th, 2022. That was signed. However, as of June 30th, now these loans were signed, but remember the model of picking up loans, picking up some of these loans is they're taken by MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies. So you can only take loan for a specific project. Now on June 30th, 2023, government paid interest on these loans that had not even been taken. Surely. Look at that. Huh? Look at that. Are we really at a loss? In Kenya, before anyone signs something, there is a say of what is in it for me. Now, had the implementing agencies put proper mechanisms in place to enable absorption of the committed credit within the agreed time frame, payment of commitment fees would have been minimized. We asked for loans, we paid, we did not take them, but just for the security that they still belong to us, we are now paying interest on loans that we've not taken. So even the ripple effect, that loan, if it is taken and the MDS absorb it for those projects, is it a system that we don't have the right documentation? We cannot do the right documentation, the feasibility studies that is needed so that that money is absorbed by the departments and agencies, because to some extent there is a problem. Of that time, of June last year, debt records showed 170.2 billion in guaranteed loans were given to state agencies with the National Treasury as the guarantor. This coming as the country fell short on planned foreign debt repayment in the same period. So we are paying interest, but those loans we've not taken. I'm telling you, John Mbadi have a long way to go. On this issue of debts, it has to be managed. I was just reading another country that in some countries, there's been a debate in this country that we are breaking the backs of the population by the heavy taxation to pay the debts. But in real sense, we have minerals. If we can optimize on exploitation of the mineral reserves in the country, we can be able to offset our loans. I know some city lawyers have been saying that we just need to collect money kept in offshore accounts to pay our loans. But don't you realize that then there is some sort of mismanagement? Now, this is why I want to say this. Just this morning, I was with the taxi guy, was taking me home, just bringing me home from town. So he asked me that, Kevin, Baba has been saying in rallies that he's donated some experts to government and now things are going to be good. And what will happen if things don't change? Because to my understanding, this system is not working. There is a problem somewhere. And even Mbadi might not be able to fix this problem. Now look, for example, this issue of debt. You know, William Ruto has gone and said, we are taking 70 shillings out of 100, 7 out of 10 bob is going to paying debts. And so we want to reverse that, probably to take it to 5 or even if possible 4. But if you look at this kind of stories coming, it's very clear that there is a system failure, and it's either deliberate because some people are maybe benefiting on it, or it is a capacity and competence problem. The people that are supposed to be taking care of this are not competent enough, and they have not been doing their best to fix this problem. Now, Mbadi is inheriting a dead corpse, not a dead corpse, a corpse. It's already dead. The economy is already dead. So this issue of debt, I heard Moses Kura saying in Makueni, because we failed, we could not pay, we went for Mbadi to help us pay. If you look at the developments and the policies, the moves at the Treasury that are currently happening, Mbadi is going to find himself in a tight spot. And these people have already realized that there is a problem. And the problem is huge. Maybe the brand of cabinet, the batch of cabinet we are sending home carried money with them. Yes, of course there have been corruption all over. They might have carried money with them. So it's a signal that Mbadi must be very sensitive of and might be able. And that is why I analyzed that. I said the CS Mbadi must not be the usual Treasury CS. You must always communicate and be the mouthpiece of that Treasury. If there is a problem, communicate. If there is a situation, you must communicate. The looting of Kenya Kwanza team in the first 2 years is one of the biggest threats that this country is facing. And lastly, and very important, some people say last but not least, but this is lastly but very important. The debt audit should be done by a foreign body, because that is where the devil lies. An understanding that Kenya Kwanza will be able to audit its own debt is shooting herself on the foot. The first thing that Mbadi must do is to get independent foreign audit firm, not these ones that can be remote controlled here, so that we can know what exactly are we paying for. And what is this business of loans? Because government seems to be in a business of debts. We pay interest and we've not even been able to pay the principal. In fact, some analysts say, some experts say, the problem is not paying interest. The problem is not paying principal. These lenders you can always adjust. They will tell you, if you will not be able to meet your loan obligation by this year, then just pay the interest. You pay the interest, then the loans continue. That is a culture. And I think on this issue of loans, for us to settle it once and for all, it cannot be left in the hands of the sitting government. It cannot be left in the hands of the sitting government. It has to be done, and we have to be intentional about it. And the starting point is audit. And that audit must be done by the right body. Otherwise, it's not going to be easy. Let's look at the goons now.